Okay, so I'm going to briefly discuss something here that truly and honestly pisses me the fuck off and contributes to my feeling of injustice. And then we're going to move on, or at least I'm going to move on. But I'd like to point out this game is one of my favorite racing games of all time, although I'm not as into the racing as I am just the open world stuff. Um, However, it has been compromised on this laptop. As I mentioned before in other videos, this laptop is an Alienware M16 that I had just finished paying off a lot of software and setting up, and I was getting ready to jam out on stuff like this, which, yes, has it's staged in Mexico, and also then one of my new friends who was very inclined with martial arts tricking and Call of Duty and stuff. He got shot up and died, and that traumatized me. So I went back to extracting, or yeah, I guess extracting MHRB, DMT from MHRB to treat the PTSD, because that's what I did last time I had such severe PTSD. And my packages were always cleared and no one ever bothered me, and I never made any trouble. However, this time around, Trump had already been elected, and I guess they held the package before Trump was elected, but that probably kind of indicates he was probably already doing stupid ass shit. Anyway, long story short, instead of customs sending me a letter saying your package was held at customs, the police interfered, intercepted the package, held it while they wrote a criminal complaint and stalked the fuck out of me. By the way, I ordered another package from Maryland. By the way, and this shit is just straight up recommended to purchase on YouTube, by the way, now. And you can buy DMT extract in DC in a vaporizer or in an extracted form because of Initiative 81. Meanwhile, Virginia has fucking cannabis dispensaries, which I'm not opposed to cannabis, but that's still federally illegal. And yet they're taking their time, they took their time out of their day to SWAT raid me and try to cover it up over a bag of MHRB that they delivered to me. And yes, I had one more because I'd ordered another one and it came from Maryland. So what are you people doing? You're not supposed to allow that stuff to be purchasable if you're going to then prosecute people over it, especially if you're going to SWAT raid them over it. Anyway, just clarifying that all of the other games that require or that I use a controller for, watch this. I don't know if it's going to do it this time, but let's just try. Last time I typed this in, I was very surprised. Just for context, Hamilton Morris is one of the experts. Okay, so it didn't do it this time. It didn't say suggested fucking bullshit. Didn't say it that time. I wonder if they removed it because I pointed it out to the police. But I took a screenshot of it on my phone. But last I looked this up on my phone. Let's see if it still does it on the phone. But Hamilton Morris is one of the experts on DMT. Yeah, I guess it's not showing up on YouTube anymore. Maybe they changed it because I pointed it out. But you know how they don't go, "Oh, I'm sorry." They go, "Shit, he caught us. He didn't fall for it." And then they don't say anything to you. And they just take it down. And then they'll go, that screenshot's an AI generated image. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, long story short, this game, I love this game, but for some reason there's a glitch with the controller on this. On on this game. Only this game. Okay, here's the screenshot, by the way. I found it. Hold on. I literally... Hold on one second. I literally typed the same thing in on YouTube. And look. It shows up sponsored products, Alec. Order some more so we can put you in prison for life because we hate you because we're corrupt assholes. Oh, but once you point it out, we're going to take it down. And we're going to claim that what you're showing is doctored. It's AI or something. It's photoshopped. Anyway, as if that's not bad enough. Which, by the way, I don't think it should be illegal in the first place. So I'm not trying to hate on people who serve this product. Unless you're trying to get me caught up, in which case, obviously, fuck you, which is what happened. But let's see. I would guess that this site is still active. Let's see. Huh. Okay, so for a moment it's not active. Let's see if it still goes through. For the first time ever, it's not going through. Now, that's weird. It went through on my phone. This kind of contributes to the sense of being watched on this computer and as though there's interference. You know what I mean? Because look, it just went through on my phone. Why would it not go through on the computer? Oh, that's not... blah, 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 that's not a real... I mean, what, you think... What excuses are you going to come up with? Anyway, I got arrested for ordering something off of this website. And it's kind of hard to see with the glare. But the website's still up. And I emailed them about it, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry that happened, blah, blah, blah. And then they claim that they don't have any responsibility in it. Meanwhile, they caught me up on 2 extra felonies when I've already got 15 years backup time for another bullshit charge, which they kept me in prison for DOC. They kept me in there for 7 months before I got anything, which, by the way, I wasn't the only one who's struggling because of COVID in the system. But my point is, it's not a coincidence. The whole thing is not a coincidence. The person that I got arrested because of was doing cocaine, and they didn't have any problem with that, by the way. They didn't have any problem with the fact that she was a regular cocaine user. But me, when I try to extract MHRB, when I try to extract DMT, which I can buy legally on the internet, they send a SWAT team. Anyway, back to the game part of this. Oh, now see, it just came up again. Oh, and let's see if the other one comes up. Let's see if this one comes up. Once again, I think there's just something up with my computer right now. I think there's something corrupt about my computer. You know, it's just ironic that police claim to be law enforcement, and yet they break so many laws, or when they do something, they're like, well, it's law enforcement. It's not crime, it's law enforcement. So what you're saying is crime is law enforcement as long as you're corrupt enough to openly accept payment for it and to ride around with, you should just ride around with criminal on the side of your car instead of police. It would be a lot more honest. But that's the thing, is that not only are you not honest, or not only are you criminal, you're also dishonest. Check, check. Also, computer's glitching a lot. You see that? So anyway, yeah, I also received a felony for ordering from this website too. So it's just like, okay, so you people are allowing this stuff to be sold. I wonder how many extra sources you can find this from now. Can you buy it on Etsy? No way. Apparently you can buy it on Etsy now. I don't know if that's true. That doesn't. These are not. They don't look legit. That one might be. Mimosa pudica. That's not the right one. Although they might just be saying pudica. Acacia extract. Interesting that they threw that in there because that shares a similar. That shares the same active ingredient, which is dimethyltryptamine, which means they know what you're looking for. Let's start there. Which, by the way, comes from usually either Brazil or Mexico when I've seen it. Yep, so they're selling it here. They're selling it here. Just pointing this out, these are the things you can get arrested. You can get arrested with a SWAT team and charged with felonies for this. And yet they're just selling it. They're just selling it, and it's even legal in DC, or at least so thoroughly decriminalized that you can just buy the extract in DC. And if you're going to be like, well, why didn't you just do that? It's like, here's the thing. It's expensive. I think if you're like a tourist, it's not a horrible idea because you can just go to your hotel or go to a park or something and use public transportation. But I happen to live right outside of DC. And so for me to safely use this product and recover correctly, using it as a recovery method, I need to be in my own home. And secondly, I don't actually know how they're extracting it. I don't know the purity, and I'm concerned about addiction and other sorts of things. They could put something in it that I'm not comfortable with. That's why I started doing it on my own. Yes, now I have a ketamine prescription, but when I first started doing this, it wasn't as prevalent. And then the ketamine clinic established it. The care clinic established their. And there were a few other ketamine clinics in the area that showed up around that same time, but I was doing my extractions by that time uninhibited in my own home for my own self, and even using it religiously, using it spiritually, and also commentary on America's religious use laws. They're absurd. You basically need to prove that you're some sort of corporation, some sort of religious corporation. It's like, prove to us that you have a established religion and what its hierarchy is and what are the members, and that there's a long recorded history of use of this product. Okay, so let's talk about Christianity for a second. Let's talk about love as an overarching religion with God at the head. Well, you say that's bullshit. Well, guess what? How is that bullshit if your money says, "In God we trust"? Oh, I get it. You want my God to be your money, to the money that you use, which, by the way, as a descendant of John Alden, is my fucking money. As a descendant of the Walter Stewart clan, don't ask me why none of them defended me, by the way. Why none of them prevented it, because they're either planning on assassinating you or me. I don't know which. I wish it was me because you got me pissed off, and I don't like it. Anyway, long story short, you're all assholes, and I hope you die. Unfortunately, that's not how I felt before. I was hoping that you'd be nice people and that we could get along and I could help you and you could help me, but apparently that is the farthest thing from reality on your mind. Let's see if the controller works. Hold on, I gotta move the camera back out the way. Okay, let's see if the controller works. Turn this halfway up. Okay. See? You see what it does? I'm pressing the button, and when it's not pressed, it resorts to the PC settings. When I press it, then it says, oh, look, connected. Oh, let go. Oh, it's gone. Why don't you just lose it? Why don't you just lose your goddamn mind? Oh, and if you do it enough times, I'll let you through to the gameplay, but then I'll fuck up your gameplay. You won't actually be able to drive. Just this game, which I will show by then going and playing Shutoko Revival Project and Toge or whatever. It's just this game. I might even go next door and plug into my Omen and show you that it works on the Omen. I had to use the mouse to click that one. So whatever group of people is responsible for this, I hope you feel the pain that I've felt. I hope over time you gradually understand what I'm going through from your own perspective and not from the perspective of someone who's persecuting me, but from the perspective of someone who starts dealing with the same problems that I was dealing with and gets treated the same way I got treated. That's what I hope for you. Nothing more and nothing less. I don't wish for revenge. I don't wish for retribution. I just wish for you to feel the absolute unbelievable torture that you've caused me, that I was already going through before and that you made way worse. And you claim to be people who are helping society. Well, guess what? You're not. Maybe you don't even claim that anymore. I feel like it's been years since I saw evidence of police actually doing what they're supposed to. We'll just keep doing this until it goes through. Or not. Maybe it won't. But you notice how it went through once. What's the anomaly there? Oh, now it's doing something other than what I wanted, which is par for the course, because they're just trying to make me lose my goddamn mind. Why do you think they did this to someone who has so many suicide attempts? Conspiracy to commit murder, absolutely assault and battery, police entrapment, perjury under oath, impersonating federal officers. But then they just go, well, what are you going to do about it? Nothing, because the court system's rigged. And you don't have any money. We made sure of that the past 15 years to never let you make any money. Meanwhile, they're totally okay with women raping me in a serial format, performing marriage fraud and stuff like that. Not actual, like, getting married and then being fraud, but fraudulent intent to marry. You know, what can I say? This is a world that I'm not sure is worth living in. And it's just like, if they actually cared when I said stuff like that, the only people who care, they don't even care that I'm suicidal, if I'm suicidal, which, by the way, it's a little more complex in my scenario, because just because I think about it, I've already had so many attempts, I know I'm not just going to go and try it again. It's not really worth it, which is why I'm so pissed off. Because if I still had hope that suicide was going to work, I would feel like, hey, there's my way out. But I don't have hope that that's going to work. So instead of actually being suicidal, I'm just pissed off and frustrated and embarrassed. And I feel subjugated and persecuted. And I've never done this to anyone before. You want to look back to my childhood and say that I was a bully when I was a childhood, when I was a child? Well, guess what? Everyone was bullying me, and I was just doing what they did back to them. And then when I got better at it than them, they all got mad at me. The only person who ever outbullied me was Reggie Scott, and he got caught up on a murder charge at some point. So let's just take that as a lesson. Long story short, the justice system is fraudulent, completely and entirely fraudulent. If you want to prove me wrong and actually do the right thing at some point, you know, that would be pretty cool. I would love to see that. If you want to, like, push all these assholes back and restore order and actually not be so corrupt, but that requires you not to be corrupt on the other side too. You can't just push them back and then push your own fucking agenda. Just like feminism, it's like, oh, well, I know how we'll give women equal opportunity. We'll cripple men. That's wrong too. Anyway, point being is the whole point, it seems like the whole point behind all of this is to just make me feel as badly about myself as possible, to try to siphon as many resources from my family as possible, to try to, like, establish some arbitrary dominance over the area, which is where I grew up and where all of my skills throughout all of this period of time should make you respect me, but instead it paints me as an enemy to you because you're all fucking assholes. You're hedonistic, selfish assholes who are the most hypocritical possible iteration of human beings. You're all satanic as fuck, and you don't play by the rules. You play by however you think the rules should be. You're a cult and a gang and a criminal organization, and you're masquerading as something that you are not. You're masquerading as someone who's supposed to help people when you're the opposite. You're selfish. You're just mercenaries. You just take whoever bribes you the highest. You just take their orders, and then you wreck people who you feel like, oh well, this will be easy because I got 10 grand off this or whatever. Big pharma. Neil deGrasse Tyson says you should watch out if someone just throws the term big pharma. Yeah, you should use your critical thinking. In this case, it's true. It is the generalistic ideology of the pharmaceutical companies interfering with hard-earned research rights and self-treatment rights and ritualistic rights. And if you want to come at, you can come at me from so many different angles. Oh, culture, you're a fake Mexican. Dude, let's not go there right now. Anyway, long story short, I think I've proven my point. I also would not be surprised if Alienware is in on this, because otherwise I don't know how they create such a specific bug. I really like this game, but unfortunately I'm just going to have to wait to play on this laptop until Forza Horizon 6 comes out, which, by the way, is coming out soon, which is part of the reason that I am not freaking out more, is because I managed to sustain my impulse to fucking complain about this shit in this way until now, till the point where I can wait until the Forza Horizon 6 game comes out. And then, you know, Andrew Gallimore has a clearance in Japan. And yeah, I know he has a degree or whatever, and that probably contributes greatly. But my perception is that Japan is probably a little more open-minded. Maybe they have some stricter rules in some places, but if I'm not mistaken, they're actually scientifically oriented, not how America has become, where it's just a bunch of people masturbating and fucking being retarded in porn, and then just like, what's it called? Just like, abusing their power. That's essentially the culture of America has degraded to rage bait, sibling porn, and cops being criminals and abusing people. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if Japan nuked DC. I'd be totally fine with that. If you could drop another one closer to me, I'd appreciate it, because this shit sucks. I know I'm complaining first world problems or whatever, but I don't know if you know what psychological torture is. And it's not just psychological. I've been physically tortured too. And then they don't give a shit, of course, because that's what they were trying to do. I know I'm not the only one pissed off about this shit either. I've seen it in the news and stuff like that too. People are being assholes everywhere. This isn't the first time people have been assholes in the world. I just thought we had a chance to actually do the right thing for once, and people said, nah, fuck that. To be honest with you, that's exactly what happened. We did have a chance. We had a chance, but it's not going to happen right now because people are being too evil. Because they want to, because they can, because they don't care about other people. They just care about their selfish needs and what they can get away with based on what their network is going to do, which is why social media ruined society, because I guarantee you that played a huge role in how these institutions became so corrupt. Why do you think the most corrupt president we've ever had of all time, by the way, interestingly enough, he's also put through a few helpful things, like, for example, last time he put through the esketamine thing, which, by the way, clearly contributed to me being raided, which is why I'm blaming him. Maybe it wasn't him directly, but it was obviously the culture that he played a role in encouraging. And then the other thing is he's apparently trying to pass through some federal marijuana research laws or whatever, lower the classification. That's great, except there's so much other stupid shit going on. And if you notice, he came from the entertainment industry, which, to be honest, is probably where a lot of politicians really that's probably where they belong in the first place. So it's kind of a catch-22 because he's exposing how corrupt it is, but at the same time, he's the most corrupt. It's pretty damning, to be honest, and it's not damning from my perspective in the perspective of like, I'm gonna get this person locked up and this person locked up and this person's gonna lose their job. No, it's damning because there's no mechanism for me to fight back other than just complaining like this and just continuing to do some of my other shit. But like, I, of all people, and probably a few other people in this country, know very well that the system is supposed to be set up to serve me and my needs, and that the Constitution is being completely ignored. It's not just being ignored, it's being used as a fucking piece of toilet paper. And the thing is that I can understand other countries being upset at America in general, upset at Americans in general, but America's not the only country that's corrupt. And also, another point that I have is if you people are going to be this petty, it's actually, unfortunately, it reflects more negatively on you than it does on me, even though I'm the one who got targeted in this particular instance. And yes, it's annoying as fuck that when I go like this, it doesn't fucking work. Yeah, that's annoying. I'm not going to deny that. And look, it just worked for... You see how they operate? Look, it worked for a second. Wow, so clever. So clever. You're so clever, people. But then I can't actually drive because the input keeps resetting. Who the fuck knows why? One of you might be going, I know why, because Trump's an asshole. Very good. Ding, 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 ding. There was a time when quote-unquote criminals actually had honor as well. And that they actually committed real crimes, like real damage to society, because they were badass and they thought they were more important than society. Well, guess what? That's not what I'm doing. I don't think I'm more important than society. Newsflash. I don't know if you're aware of this about me. You know, you can call it fake news all you want, but it's a fucking newsflash regardless. I don't think I'm more important than society. I do think I've contributed to society more than most people. However, I do think that I've also therefore been discredited more than most people. And that most people who are involved in the scam would just say, you're delusional. That's a delusion of grandeur. You haven't done anything. This is why you were locked up. This is why you have a criminal record. This is why you don't have a degree. And this is why you can't get a job. This is why you're an abuser, a substance abuser, instead of saying, hey, you know what? We fucked up. We got you addicted to drugs against your will. We also lied about your medications. They didn't help you at all. They made you way, 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 way worse, which we knew would happen because we just want you to commit suicide. That's the truth. That's your business model. Is putting people in bad situations and entrapping them and then taking their assets from them. And taking their ideas and taking their businesses. And this country, by the way, most of the laws in this country are actually illegal. And if you don't want to just focus on that, you want to just focus on what is crime? Crime is breaking the law, according to the law, right? Okay, well, so guess what? If we didn't have any laws, we wouldn't have any crime. So law enforcement causes crime, so it's inherently criminal because you cause crime. But watch this. This is what they say. Nuh-uh, not when it's law enforcement. It's not crime when it's law enforcement. So let me ask you a question. If a SWAT team and some FCPD assholes impersonated a federal mail carrier and handed me a package of MHRB and called it a controlled delivery and then swatted me, why are they not being charged with possession of DMT? Do you think that they're all doctors? By the way, my attorney said, DMT can't even be used by doctors. Fuck you, dude. Asshole. Yeah, we got a deal, so what? You know what I would have rather had is if you people put some 5.56 rounds in my body because you're fucking lame as fuck and you ruined a good thing. I swear to God. Today, come back. I'm fine with it. You can come back and splatter me all over the walls. I'll be happy. Because then I won't have to live on the same planet as you. I cringe every fucking day so fucking hard knowing that you still exist. If you even exist. If you even have particles left on this planet, that's bad enough. The shit in the sewers. Even if you died last week, if your shit's still circulating in the sewers, that's enough to cringe over. You represent a de-evolution of humanity. You probably don't even know what that means. Anyway, now let's prove that the controller fucking works. Which would be really ironic if it didn't, because it always does. I've been posting with controller games quite a bit. By the way, if I just ruin someone's whole life, good. You fucking deserve it. As long as you actually deserve it. If you were responsible for this shit, especially if it's you, Thomas Brennan, fuck you. I'm still coming and thinking about seeing you at the fucking George Mason Governmental Center, and don't get your fucking panties in a bunch, because all I want to do is talk to you rationally about how stupid that was. You fucking asshole. And it'd be much better if you got fired, because you don't deserve that job with your fucking perjury under oath, blowing shit out of proportion, unnecessary ass SWAT raid. Ass. Fucking asshole. And your SWAT team's fake, because I offered to volunteer, by the way, and all you did was run a kill drill on me. And you didn't even kill me. You're incompetent. The only person who I'm still pissed at because he played a leading role in my arrest is PJ, by the way. If you hate yourself, that's still a correct response. But he got the amount of dimethyltryptamine in that package right. He was the only one that I heard speak any sense at all, even though he offended me. I'm still pissed at you. I'm not your friend, but I acknowledge that you did something right where they did not. So as far as people who should keep their job go, I still am. Let's say I don't think he should be. He's not immediately on my shit list. He's on the list of people who I'm displeased with, but that I still recognize as having some inherent value, even if he used it against me. The prosecutor's retarded. The attorney's retarded. One of the attorneys that we tried to hire asked for $50,000. And they took my work. So let's see. You take my work, and then I'm supposed to pay for it. I work and you pay for it. That's worse than slavery. It's worse than slavery. And I don't have any problem saying that, because my injuries and the stress that I've been through, it's a different type of slavery. Let's put it that way. And the way that I've supported not only my country, but the people. And you can sit there and laugh at me all you want. It just goes to show, once again, that you don't take anything seriously. Except for your fucking dildo. Anyway, I just bought this car, so let's just drive it a little bit. It's just stock. This is the CX-3, whereas my mom drives the CX-5, and I also drive the CX-5 sometimes. By the way, look, you can make all the excuses you want, but the fucking controller works on this game. And it's in Japan. Seems a little suspicious that it's just the Mexican game. I will say Forza Horizon 4 also has some problems, but not that problem. See? Driving perfectly fine on this one. Controller works on this one. Let's just take a quick lap so that I can calm down a little bit. I'm going to push the mic away, and I'm just going to use I'm going to use the stop skill, and then I'm going to use some mindfulness. I'm going to practice being in wise mind, and I'm going to, focus on building mastery, improving the moment. I'm going to take a mental vacation to Japan right now, which is where I really fucking want to be, except that I have too many ties here, and I can't just leave everything. So let's do this. Brief interjection. Also, in addition to those other charges I listed against them that are valid, armed robbery is obviously one of them. And it's just really fucked up, in addition to, like, I do my work and then they make me pay for it, that you rob me and then you get money out of me beyond that. That is just absurd. Oh, and this all changes drastically, by the way, if PJ was the one who set me up and not Thomas or not someone else. But I don't know the details. I will say I had a psychic encounter with PJ while I was on the dimethyltryptamine the previously, and my inclination was oh shit, but then it was like no 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 hold on, chill. That's what I got from him. Okay, so you see where I'm coming from with this? Also, that wasn't a very good example of stopping, and I mean it was okay, but the engine's overheating. So if I want to do a full lap, let me do a little bit of a better, let me do a little bit of a better stop, and then you know mindfulness, improve the moment, building mastery. But let me get the rest of this out of the way real quick. My guess is that also, in addition, there were a lot of other raids going on around the same time as the one that happened for me, and a lot of other federal workers being fired, for example. My guess is that okay, so I have seen the kind of drill that they ran on my house. I saw a YouTube video of people doing that sort of stuff in the Middle East. And what I've also seen YouTube videos of people doing stuff like that in the Middle East on is opium farms. And I remember hearing at the skate park this one girl, I don't know if she was talking about me, but I have a feeling it was. I've been feeling very misunderstood for a long time now. Something about them thinking I was on smack or something like that, which, by the way, I've never used heroin in my entire life. Never used fentanyl in my entire life. I had morphine once. I didn't particularly enjoy it. And I have used kratom in the past, and I have probably eaten too much of it because it shut my stomach down. But I just got a kratom tea bag for the first time today. I talked to my doctor beforehand also. Oh wait, I don't think I mentioned the kratom. I mentioned the harmala seeds and the Banisteriopsis caapi, which hopefully I'll be able to obtain both of those. But where was I? Oh yeah, long story short, I bet they thought I was going to have heroin on me or something. Or they thought I was going to be armed and armored or something like that. So, you know, this all kind of ties in, you know? So now I'm going to put it away. I'm going to put the mic to the side, and I'm going to take a full lap with my favorite recent car in the game, because I've been playing it in Import Tuner, is this one. This is what I've been playing in Import Tuner. And what I'll say before I move on is the only thing that I can think, if you had any thoughts in your head about me, is you just think that I'm down to get treated like a bitch. Which, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I am frustrated by my powerless in this situation. But if you're talking about my preferences, you don't understand me. If you're talking about how I've quote unquote let some people treat me, not knowing my intentions or what the context is, and then listening to people's lies, then once again, you just didn't get it right. But then again, I'm not so sure that you actually care about what's right and wrong, and you seem to care a lot more about what you can get away with and fucking projecting on other people. So yeah, now I'm going to use stop again. Dialectics, because there's two sides of this story. I'm going to participate. I'm going to recover from invalidation, build mastery, distract and self-soothe with improve the moment. And I'm radically accepting that this is how I feel and that the Forza game is messed up on this computer, all this stuff. And I'm just going to use willingness and turning the mind and be mindful of my current thoughts as I take a lap around the map in how I feel like it. Okay, that was pretty successful. I managed to focus on the driving and process some of my emotions and be mindful of my thoughts. I'd also like to practice gratitude for a moment just to balance things out here. First of all, to all of the police officers who joined the force to actually make the world a better place and actually help people, thank you. But honestly, if all you did was go to community college, or even if you just got a 4-year degree in law enforcement and you don't do extracurricular studying beyond that, and you make arrests like the arrest that was made on me, and especially if you don't do any community outreach and you resort to unscrupulous tactics backed by the fact that you're law enforcement, so it's fine, then you've missed the point. That's all I'm saying. You missed the point of being a police officer. It seems like more so you think the point of being a police officer is just fucking up people's days and getting away with it. In which case, I would like to remind you that if I really wanted to, I could go out of my way and give up everything that I have going and wreak absolute fucking havoc if I wanted to. That's not what I want to do, and I don't know how far I'd get. But the point is, it's not what I want to do, which is why I'm so upset about being treated the way that I'm being treated. Because every single time you have gotten me in trouble, sorry, I'll get back to being grateful in a second. Every single time I've gotten in trouble with the police, I'm not the one who's doing quote unquote the wrong thing. All I'm doing is trying to operate in an environment that's been made very difficult by people who are not doing what they're supposed to do. Every single time. And often I've been threatened directly to a point where the only reason that I had to take care of it was because they were enlisting, for example, enlisting police assistance. And it's not enough to say, oh, well, I must have been doing the wrong thing if I'm the one that got in trouble. It's actually honestly the opposite, because I didn't go around filming everyone all the time, trying to get people in trouble, documenting all their wrongs against me. Instead, I tried to work it out with them. Or in other cases, like, for example, my petty larceny charge, I happen to know that those items that I took from the Best Buy were likely also stolen because of the way that things were happening in the area and what I'd been hearing from other people. And also they lied on the report in addition, which means, yes, they probably were stolen items, which is called reappropriation. What I did is called reappropriation, because when you run companies like that, it affects the civilian population that doesn't want to contribute to your corruption. I could have been doing something useful with my time this whole time and actually helping people, but then again, we get into bigger problems like how the industries are set up, which is why cars like this in these games, the older cars, are so cool. Because even though there was still corruption back then, the newer designs, while they have some improvements, ultimately are straying away from the design which serves the driver. The person who loves cars. And yeah, the designs can be basically made the same and then made better, like with better technology later, and it's still a valid car. It's just that insurance companies might not want to cover it the same because, oh, you don't have this, that, and the other thing, which, yeah, it might prevent you from crashing, especially if you're not a skilled driver, but it also takes all the fun out of the driving. And it's not just the fun, it's the purpose and the meaning. And if you're one of those people who's like, oh, well, it's just supposed to get you from point A to point B, and you're not supposed to be doing all that, well, then once again, first of all, your sex is probably boring if you've ever had it. And I'm not hating on virgins, by the way. I kind of wish I still was one. And long story short, that's not why I'm on this planet. And if I can't live my life in a way that suits me, I don't want to live it at all. And that was the whole point of this country. And it's not a threat. Like I said, I'm not suicidal in the sense of, like, I'm not planning on hurting myself. Sorry that I have to even say that, because I should be allowed to do that if I want to. But I recognize it doesn't help me, because I just get set back and then I have to make my way back forward again. For example, today I was stuck on the couch because I'm in pain and I'm depressed and I'm psychotic, because not psychotic like I'm foaming at the mouth and I want to hurt you, psychotic like I am in hell. And what got me off the couch was thinking about Taco Bell, which I try not to eat fast food anymore, just like I don't smoke cigarettes and I don't drink alcohol anymore. Instead, I smoke CBD hemp, federally approved hemp from a farm, and I brew my own beer, but I don't ferment it. So I almost went to Taco Bell, and then something in my head said, "Don't do that. Great job getting off the couch, but you're driving by all these people and seeing their faces, and although you think God's an asshole right now, and you're not wrong, he's making these people make faces at you saying, don't go to Taco Bell, go to Chipotle, and just get a quesadilla." Anyway, so crisis averted on that one. But my point is that if I start going down the wrong path, which is the path that SWAT rating me basically encourages me to go down, over something which you could have just told me. You could have let Customs send me a letter saying, hey, we held your package at Customs. Or you could have actually done your job and work with the ISPs to block the ClearNet sites which are selling MHRB, which is the only reason that I ordered it, is because it's on the ClearNet. And that's what you're supposed to do. And PJ said to me when I said, it would have been nice if you would have sent me either a notice or spoken to me. He's like, yeah, that would be nice, but that's not how this works. Now, I'm inclined to believe, I'm hopefully believing that he was referring to the whole organization being corrupt and him just being caught up in it because he's just one person who also doesn't want to get in trouble, which still doesn't excuse it. But at least, once again, like I said, at least he had some knowledge of the process. It's one thing if you have no idea what the fuck this shit is and you're arresting people over it versus actually having some knowledge over it and having a reason to. I still don't think you had a reason to arrest me because I wasn't doing anything wrong and I wasn't even doing the extraction wrong. I had done it many times before and it was helpful to me. It was so helpful that at some point I didn't have to do it anymore. Anyway, so back to the gratitude. One of the things I'm grateful for is that I do have a ketamine prescription now. And even though there's a lot of obscurity as to what the definition of ketamine is, R-cyclohexane. Bitch, cyclohexane. Doesn't that sound like a solvent? R. Yeah, you did bring a few of those to my house, didn't you? You should have left me some. R-cyclohexalamine. Okay? You could just call it dimethyltryptamine, because all you're doing is extracting dimethyltryptamine from the acacia tree, likely using a salt-base extraction, and using cyclohexane as a solvent. Whereas I was using Mimosa hostilis, you seem to more so use acacia, but I would not be surprised if you've been using more Mimosa hostilis. Anyway, it's very obscure on purpose because big pharma is corrupt. Universities are corrupt. Big education is corrupt. And yes, you should think critically about that. I'm not disagreeing with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Every time generalizations are made, you should think critically about what the factors involved are. In this case, the generalization is accurate, but I'm talking about something very specific. I'm talking about the way that pharmaceutical companies, corporations, all the corrupt businesses of America, the way that they shit on individual people who often are doing the right thing and often have to do the right thing themselves because the big businesses refuse to do the right thing. The way that they refuse to just accept a baseline wage instead of being greedy and actually provide people with something that's useful and then just don't make as much money. Because you don't need as much money, because the whole point of all this is to get people happy and healthy. But you disagree. For some reason, you disagree. You think the whole point of it is to protect your ego and to be selfish and to only serve the people within your organization and the people who will fucking cooperate with you. Anyone who knows what they're doing knows that you don't need a certification to be good at something, and oftentimes the certification is actually it's actually an indication that they're not as good. I'm not saying that certifications are useless. I definitely wish that the 4-year education system was more effective, for example. I actually support the system, and this is where the confusion comes in. I am in support of a properly functioning system. But unfortunately, a lot of people think, well, hell no, because if we're playing fair, I'm not going to win. So fuck you and fuck your family. That's how they think. That's essentially all it comes down to which I will say, I hope your entire reality crumbles upon you, because that's what you deserve. Anyway, back to gratitude. I'm grateful that the system is still standing, even though it's extremely corrupt, because that means we can still fix it over time. I'm grateful I have a ketamine prescription, even though what I was doing was ultimately more effective. I will also admit that there are still issues with self-treating. Okay? One of the big issues is that it makes it a lot more difficult to fit my medication routine and align it openly and honestly with the other parts of my therapy. That is, I will openly I'm not admitting it in the sense of it's not like a wrong thing. It's just I'm acknowledging that is a shortcoming of treating myself in that way. So while my actual medication, I believe, was ultimately more effective for what I'm trying to achieve, and the way that I administered it felt more effective, there are still side effects either way. There's still side effects either way, and there's still problems with it either way, okay? So I'm acknowledging that. What would have been better is if you came to my house and checked on me and said, hey, are you doing this right? And even, can I try some? That would have been more helpful. Can I try some? And also, are you okay with me taking pictures of your lab notebook so that I know how you're making this? And also, if you ever feel the need to set up a supply chain, we'll hook you up with the testing lab to make sure you're not going to poison people, and we'll help you set up a taxation. We'll help you pay your taxes to us. That's what you should have fucking done. That's what the police should do. But you people are so uber motherfucking corrupt that you didn't even know the first thing about that. Fuck a community outreach, for example. Fuck researching that I'm on a corrupt-ass probationary period with 15 years backup time. You don't give a shit. You don't care about human life. Which you should. That's my whole point. Is that you should care about human life, because if I stop caring about human life, your human life is at risk. And that is the problem that you caused. And you think that it's not just because you think I'm not capable. But if you notice, I'm still here at home. If I wasn't capable, I wouldn't still be here at home. You know what? You want to know why the attorney even agreed that attorney that we hired, even though he said some dumbass bullshit that dimethyltryptamine can't even be used by doctors. Okay, sure, because the shelf life is not as long when you don't have a ketonic bond. You didn't say that. You just made it sound like it's dangerous. So, back to gratitude or whatever, or, even though I don't agree with the way it was handled, it was still handled to some degree. And how else do I put it? I forgot what I was saying. I hate when I make that noise too with my mouth. I hate it when other people do that too. God damn it. I forgot what I was saying. Let's go play the Toge game. I'm pretty sure that if you're paying attention to what I'm saying, you can infer the rest of what I forgot to say. Gratitude. I was on the gratitude kick. Yeah, so I'm grateful for the prescription. I'm grateful that there was some sort of resolution, even though I feel slighted. Okay. That's fine, as long as it lets me log in. And I'm grateful that the initiative in DC is still active and available, even if it's being used to serve corrupt people. Because ultimately, all of these substances need to be legalized. When a substance is classified as illicit, or by the way, scheduled, do you actually know why it's called a scheduled substance? Why is it called scheduled? Because it's supposed to be on the schedule. It's supposed to be a high priority on the schedule for securing a safe resource for this substance. We're supposed to be creating stores, ethically creating stores of safe product. That's why these are scheduled, and then they should be descheduled once you create the fucking framework for it. But no, you people are too stupid and too greedy to understand that that's what you're supposed to be doing. You forgot because you took too many goddamn rounds to the head and then juiced up and came back to the table like, what were we doing? Oh yeah, spoot, blip. That's your brain. And I was trying to be sympathetic to you. Anyway, so I'm grateful that the initiative is still in place because Initiative 71 led to states being able to more so instate their laws legalizing marijuana, even though it's still federally illegal. But when something becomes legal in DC, that's where most of the laws are made. You know, you can say it happens in other places, it does, but most of the work is done in DC. So when something is decriminalized in DC, I said legalized, is when it's decriminalized in DC, that should be a sign to you that you should also take a hint at the state level. You should think, hey, maybe this is where things are going. Maybe I shouldn't make it worse. You shouldn't think, oh, hey, here's my last chance to get a come up, to hit a lick. I'm going to get that clean batch. Let me swipe that tech. Now, here's the thing. Once again, just pause for a moment. Suspend your disbelief and imagine what the world would be like if I decided I wanted to behave like that and I did it in a way that I was not going to get caught or get in trouble for it. It's the opposite of how I've been living. You're setting a really bad precedent as people who are supposed to be setting a good example when you do things like this. Now, when I say things like this, I mean not following a good protocol from an objective perspective, not just from a subjective perspective of how you think it would suit you, but from the objective perspective of what's most effective long-term for solving these problems. Because if you keep these barriers in place that are supposed to be just crutches while America gets its shit together, then you're just creating more problems. You're not actually solving any problems. And the police institution is essentially an institution of scientists. It's evidence-based. It is based on evidence and truth and fairness. And when you go against science, you just expose yourselves. And whether it reaches beyond me is a different situation. Whether that actually creates any differences is a whole different situation from the fact that you did expose yourself. And it has taken me, how long has it been now? It's been a year, at least a year, right? Yeah, it's been over a year since this happened. It's taken me this long to get my words together. For like a week after it happened, I couldn't even fucking formulate sentences about this shit because I was so angry. And that's the thing. It's this culture of you mad. It's just this culture of oppositional defiance that takes into zero consideration humanity because they feel like they don't have anything to live for. And what they try to do is force people like me down to their level. But what I don't know, I'm not saying like there's a guaranteed negative consequence from me other than me just bitching about it, which is apparently what you wanted me to do since that's how you treated me. You didn't appreciate that I was trying to be positive and trying to be a quote unquote strong man because apparently nobody likes real men these days. Apparently that's not in anymore. What's in is your phone and fucking OnlyFans and TikTok and your fucking stupid ass attachments, which by the way, if you hadn't used them against me, I would have been impressed by them. But because you used them like a fucking retard, I know you shouldn't have them. So once again, gratitude for guns, but then also complaints against people who use them inappropriately. Like I said, you should have shot me. If you're going to take it that, if it's so fucking serious that you need to bring a fucking SWAT team to my house, you should just shoot me and get it over with, because you're ruining my fucking life. And if that's what your goal is, then you're not real police officers. And that's my whole point. You're not real police officers. You're not actually doing real police work. You're just criminals who are selfish. And once again, if you, like, calling me a criminal in this situation is so fucking backwards. So not only are you actually being criminals, but you're also being what criminals claim. A lot of criminals claim to hate the police because of how fucking, how stupid it is that you're turning someone in for something that's like, well, it's kind of the same thing. It's the same problem. And that's why it links up. That explains why you think it's appropriate to give me 2 possession charges at once. What's that all about? Just because I had packages from 2 different places? Once again, you didn't give any context. You just thought it was fine to throw me under the fucking bus. Oh wait, before I go any farther, this also has the same air of complaining about my circumcision. Yeah, I'm fucking pissed about it. But for some reason, a lot of people think that it's okay to go, oh, well, you should shut the fuck up, or else you probably want the rest of it taken off. Or I guess you don't want to get laid anymore. Or, oh, well, then I guess you need to be castrated. Snip, snip. It's just a little snip. Oh, you're not grateful? Shut the fuck up, because we get paid $2,000 every time we do it. Just like how you had to pay Gabby $2,000. Fucking assholes. $2,000 in courtroom 2K. What a coincidence. And here's the takeaway here. I don't know if you've been following my channel since I've been posting so much, but I've posted videos that if you're one of my haters, you should love to see that. And the takeaway here is I genuinely want people to be happy. Even if you're a hater, I still want you to be happy. And that's why I have mental health issues, is because people are not treating me how they're supposed to when I treat them the way that I'm supposed to. Because, what is it? Not just being a Christian, but that's what most religions should be teaching you, is how to be a better person regardless of how other people treat you, because that's not what's most important. However, I'm still human, and you're pissing me the fuck off, and there is a line, and I have snapped multiple times, which it feels like what you're trying to do. It feels like you're just trying to go, poke, 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 oh yeah, you're so Christian, poke, 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 right, Sean? Right, Mr. Kincaid? Feels like what you did. Just be like, ha 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 ha. So anyway, yeah, I crash out a little bit. But I'm still trying to behave in a composed manner to some degree. And also what it kind of exposes is that all these federal clearances and stuff, which are supposed to be based on merit and reason are actually just based off of money, because you can basically pay your way through school and not actually learn anything, and you can just cheat and learn the bare minimum, and you can pay for the test grades and stuff and just learn the bare minimum and then fucking take people's lives into your hands, which feels like what most people are doing. Now, not all people are like that. I've met some pretty well educated people, but my point is that usually they're not the ones running the business. Usually they're the ones who are just doing the work, and that it feels like the people who run the business don't have actual people's interests at heart, and it's up to the practitioner whether or not they actually want to help people or not. This is not a new issue, however. I mean, it is a new issue in the sense of how it's happening, but these issues have been present for a long time. And as far as Sonya calling me a dumbass and whoever else is following along on that, you know, I don't have anything else to say to you, because clearly I proved that when you fought me, I won. When you actually fought me one-on-one, which was your idea, by the way, you're the one who got violent, I wrecked you, and then you couldn't handle it, so you threatened to kill me. That's really ultimately what this all comes down to, is I keep wrecking fools based off of actual fucking integrity and skill sets at the times when it matters most. Just like back in the day, I used to be a menace on Fortnite, and then they changed it and people got too competitive with the building. It's not really a big issue now because I'm not concerned about Fortnite, but it's a good example of the fact that timing matters. At the most crucial times, I fucking wreck folks who think they've got their shit together but don't. And then I move on, because that's just the name of the game. When it's happened to me, I just learn from it and I come back a better person. But you people can't handle it. So you spend all your fucking time plotting up on people, which is the most pathetic shit of all time, by the way. So this is why I say, if you want to come back and kill me today, fine. You know what? I put my time in on this earth. Everything else from here on out is optional. It's however long God wants to keep me on this earth. And since you want to play God, why don't you just end it? Also, another little fun fact, I don't know if you know why murder is illegal in the first place, because if you really think about it, if you're able to actually kill someone and then everyone else doesn't just crash out on you, like if you kill someone and like you're right to do so, there really shouldn't be any consequence from it. You should have to clean up your mess and take care of the assets and then do the best to make amends to the family if that needs to be done. Sometimes it doesn't need to be done, I feel like, because like if they're in on it, maybe they need to go too, or they need to just say, no, you're right, that was messed up. Here's why murder is illegal. Because when you kill someone and cause them to suffer, it creates entropy. But there's this guy in Call of Duty, his name's Soap. I don't think they ever necessarily actually explain why, but my belief is that he's probably called that because of what's known as clean kills, which is the entire, by the way, this is pretty much the entire premise of actual law enforcement, other than as far as why do law enforcement officers, why do they even carry guns? Because, by the way, for most of you officers who carry guns, you really shouldn't have a gun. I'm going to be completely fucking honest with you. There is no reason that you should have a gun to do your job, because you should not be using a gun against someone else, because that's crime. Unless you're an extremely highly trained professional, which 90 90%, I'll say 90%. I'll say 90% of you officers who carry guns are not well trained. You should not have guns, and you're not using them for what you're supposed to use them for. You're not just supposed to be surprised and, oh, let me play gangster. No, that's not what that's for. It's for making a job easier. When you have someone who really, really actually needs to fucking die or has consented to a war game, like beyond the realms of just saying, yeah, let's go. That's not really enough. You actually need to have a long-standing, there's a pact involved usually, and at that point, if you get a clean kill, the more clean kills you get, the less crime you're committing. Killing is not the crime, although it may be, you may have to talk to the big man upstairs about that. That's not an actual societal crime, however, because you can actually make society better by killing people who really do need to be fucking killed. But if you do it in a way that's cruel, you are still committing crime because humans have rights. They don't necessarily all have a right to live, but they have rights while they are alive. And if you go through the process of killing someone and cause them undue stress in that process, then you are committing crime. Let's just get that out of the way. By the way, Virginia is a sic semper tyrannis state. That is the only actual law in Virginia that is really aligned with the Constitution. All the other laws, if I'm not mistaken, I hate to bring this up with you, I'm pretty sure they were only supposed to apply in prisons. And then somehow prison breaks happened, and then they took over the police positions, and they decided to impose it on the civilian community. And what happened, by the way, was absolutely a great example of tyranny. The way that the police raided me, the way that they lied, the way that they tried to cover it up. It's what they raided me over, what I was actually doing. All of what they did was a perfect example of not only tyranny, but terrorism. Actual terrorism. And I have seen in the news other examples of people who are claiming to be law enforcement performing terrorism. And this is a horrible country to do that in. Some might say it's the best country for terrorism. There's nothing wrong with the terrorism in this country. Right? Donald? Now, I will say this, and I'm going to actually focus on the driving again. There's a parable about, I don't even know what it is exactly, but something about a rich man getting into heaven is more difficult than blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Something that's very difficult and impossible. Well, no, it's not. If you use your money to actually help people. But the problem here is that people have come to believe that in order to be rich and stay rich, that you have to fuck over everyone in your fucking path. And that needs to change. Controller's still working on this game, by the way. Okay. So anyway, I've now proven, I mean, you can try to myth bust me all you want, but what I just proved on camera is that there's a problem with Forza Horizon 5 on this computer when it comes to using the controller, okay? And this computer is the one that the cops took, okay? What the cops, quote unquote. because obviously they're not real cops because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They think that they can just get brain rot. You know, Lujan, this is my problem with you, is that you're encouraging their behavior because they're not smart enough to see the nuance in what you're doing. And also, while your comments about circumcision are not wrong, you're also an asshole. I just wanted to let you know that. It's like, it's a double-edged sword because you kind of implied that you like circumcision, but at the same time, you pointed out that it's really cruel. I don't know where to go from there, but you are part of the problem because you're encouraging these stupid assholes who aren't smart enough to know the difference to behave like an idiot. And while I understand what your purpose is, I still have a problem with it. I hope you don't take it as a personal attack. I don't have anything against you personally. I just don't like what's going on and how that fits into it. I actually personally think you're pretty funny. But like I said, I don't like what's going on, so it's hard for me to separate the two. Oh, and so here it goes. Bringing it back around. I'm taking criminal justice courses now. Why? Not because I want to be a cop. I don't. Frankly, I've already been a law enforcement officer my whole damn life because of my heritage. And until you understand that about me, you'll never understand why I behave the way I do. And I'm not the type of law enforcement officer that gets paid and puts people in handcuffs, because you want to know what's really true about our system and about law enforcement officers in general. Arresting someone is a crime. It's that simple. I'm sorry to break it down to you like that, but putting someone in handcuffs is assault, and putting them in the back of your car against their will and taking them to the station is kidnapping. It's that simple. Law enforcement is best done from within society. And I used to go to June Rhee, and although I didn't complete the program, I truly believe that leading by example is the most important thing, and that what you're practicing as a law enforcement officer is martial law, and that you should be trained in martial arts and you should have discipline and respect for other people. But unfortunately, the whole entire law enforcement industry has strayed completely far from this, and the only kind of martial arts training you usually get, first of all, is usually corrupted by social media, and second of all, is usually just used to hurt people, not to actually adhere to the fucking foundational aspects of why humanity even has these skills in the first place. So, as far as law enforcement officers go, if you're a law enforcement officer, and first of all, I just would suggest just giving me some space right now, because I find it very difficult to believe that even if you did, obviously I tried to reach out to the department and they just said, this has nothing to do with us, fucking assholes. So, since you didn't respond in a responsible way, I would suggest right now just giving me some space. I'm going to keep sending you emails, which you may or may not have blocked. But I'm probably even going to email you this video. So just get your shit. I would recommend personally, because if I'm not going away, you're eventually going to have to deal with me at some point, which is the whole point here. The probationary period is going to end. I'm going to reapply for my gun rights. I'm probably going to ask for all my records to be sealed, and I'll probably have completed my criminal justice my certificate. I might even pursue more education with regards to that. So I would say, don't look at me as someone who doesn't know what's going on until you tell me. That's what my point is. My dad, his whole shit was criminology and education, okay? So, and he was a medical expert as well. So, when you SWAT raid me over stuff like this, especially when you bring money into it, because my mom is well trained in economics. She has a master's degree. I can't remember if it's in economics, but she works for an economics firm. A high-level economics firm. So when you people, and by the way, authority is just comes from what you write, from what you author. And when you disrespect my authority and supersede it with something that is not simply authority, but you are actually being violent, you're threatening with violence, you're committing crime in order to accomplish this. You stole the MHRB. I didn't steal it. And when it comes to, you want to get into whether that is the same type of scenario as the Best Buy people stealing from each other and me taking something from it, because I can't reasonably get a job in an environment like that. I can't reasonably make an income in an environment like that when you people are all playing dirty. That's a little bit different than when I actually purchase something and you claim that it's illegal, but you let it be purchased in the first place. We can actually argue some of the semantics there. I would agree that that is also a complicated scenario. However, what I would argue is that you should not have approached it like that. That's my point. And you might say that maybe I shouldn't have approached the Best Buy situation like that, or I shouldn't have approached any of these other situations like that. But unfortunately, what you've done is come full circle and prove that your whole shit is bullshit and that you don't actually give a fuck and you don't stand behind the principles that you're preaching when you say that I should do it this way, that way, and the other way, because you don't do it that way. And you're the one who's claiming that you're a professional at this and that we should all listen to you instead of reason. In fact, you don't even care if we listen to you because you've got a gun, which is what you're doing is harassing people. Once again, I'm not against gun ownership. I'm also not against generally. I'm not against law enforcement carrying weaponry at all. It doesn't just have to be a gun. I think it'd be cool if law enforcement officers carry a sword. That'd be pretty sick. I mean, they used to. In Japan, at least, they used to do that. Bushido and stuff like that. I don't think you should be limited to a gun. I just think that you should be more mindful of what you're actually supposed to be doing, and that you should be more in tune with why you're actually doing it, and that you shouldn't do it if you're not good at it, or if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And that I also think that the American people, I think the world should come together as, we should have a unified government, which could be dystopian, which is why we need to take it seriously. But everyone should be an officer of the law. And I don't mean that like you should all be suing each other and trying to arrest each other. No, what I mean is you should all be keeping notes. I think every single person on this planet should have access, even in a jail cell, which, by the way, the prison system needs to be amended as well. It should be an option, not a demand. But my point is, everyone should have access to at least one notebook at a time, as long as you're not ruining it. This is from the government's perspective. The government should provide baseline amenities to people who want to live in the government systems. That's it. Which means in a state in the United States, you should have access. You should be able to acquire at least a jail cell, which is what I was saying. That's if you got to start again, that's not a bad place to start, as long as you have programs. If you have no other option, having programs in jail, you can spend some time in there, go to prison even, get your shit together and come out, and you can even be a cop out of prison. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to do that. That is the logical progression, but you shouldn't be harming people with that power. And while you're in prison, you shouldn't just be quote unquote cooking up on the ops. If you want to do that, you should go play war games in the military. And that's not all the military should be for, but that's one of the things you should do. And not take it out on civilians. Don't take it out on civilians is my point. But this is also the point, is that every civilian should be essentially a police officer. Without having to be paid for it. You should everyone should have common sense about what is and isn't okay. And it should be less about the letter of the law and more about generally having an awareness of what is and isn't okay based on the context. And you should have arms training. Every individual, in order to participate fully in the system, should be trained in some sort of martial arts to some degree, should be trained in some sort of handling of weaponry, especially firearms, even if you never use one. Realistically, I hope you never do use one. But the point is, the power shouldn't be consolidated within one group that then becomes so corrupt that they claim that they're the ones who are helping people, but they aren't. And then most people should have useful jobs, and even with the onset of AI and automation, people should still be working with their hands a lot, because that's what we're built to do. That's what we've evolved to do. Women and men should be working with their hands on a daily basis, aside from being sick and needing to recover. I don't want to go and explain the whole theory behind everything that I'm saying, but my point is that there's a lot of things that need to change. And, it's kind of interesting, I guess, that the Forza Horizon 5 thing is the thing that that brings me to this whole conversation again, because it's like a really petty thing to have happen. And once again, I can't prove to you how that's happening or why it's happening, but I can tell you very clearly that there is a relation between that happening and some other bullshit happening. And I have solutions. And the only thing I'm asking, what I was getting at is, if you're a law enforcement officer, once again, I'm not just by the way, I right now you should probably give me some space, because I'm a little bit reactive. Like today, a park police drove by when I was about to leave, and I instinctively flipped the car off. I didn't even think about it. And I got to be honest with you, I wasn't in a good mood. That's when I was about to go to Taco Bell. And that's I think maybe that's one of the things that made me think maybe I shouldn't go to Taco Bell. Maybe I should go to Chipotle. But I'm just not in a good mood most of the time. And I'm not happy to see police officers around me. Once again, because of the way I've been treated. But ultimately, what I would like is to, down the line, be able to establish some sort of rapport. And I'd like to see people be a little more responsible, because I actually support, this is what I was getting at. I actually support police. I support police, and I support, our armed services in general. Especially, I also support our emergency services. I know that's not like, it should be all in the same, like, bucket. You should be generally capable. This is another thing that I complain about in our society. There's too much specialization for no reason. People should, just like I'm brewing my own beer at home now. I'm not fermenting it, but that should be a choice. Like, people should be educated in these baseline things. That's what school should be for. And then you should be able to specialize beyond that based on an interest, not just because you need a job. So in the future, I would eventually like to establish an actual working relationship, not because I want to get paid by the police. I'd rather do something else. We can talk about fantasy stuff later, but what I'm saying is I would like to be able to communicate with the local departments. I'd like to be able to reach out to people. Social media has once again made this basically impossible, because I'm essentially blacklisted. I'd like to be able to reach out to people, have them respond to me with an intelligent response, and then be able to communicate with them about stuff, so that we don't have to go into this whole what's it called, adversarial situation. But what frustrates me is that's what people want nowadays. People want the adversarial situation. And my whole point is, you might get away with that for a while. I might even die before you see consequences, but there's always consequences. So I'd like in the future. Also, I don't even know how to solve this problem with the Forza Horizon thing. I don't know who to talk to. Normally, I would have tried to create a Microsoft support ticket. But Microsoft support sucks now. Sorry, whoever's running that, but it just fucking sucks. And I'm pretty sure that it's probably even corrupt, because they probably even have corrupt quote-unquote police backing. Anyway, beyond that, I don't know how to contact anyone at the Horizon Studios or anything about that. I'm not even sure. Once again, because the Japanese game is coming out soon, and I can go next door and play on my Omen if I want to play in Mexico. I can do that. So, like, I'm just not going to bother with it. But it's another frustration I have. Like, most corporations and stuff, they don't just have someone who can actually just talk to you about shit. I just feel like people's priorities have, like, I know it's difficult. I'm not just, like, blaming any one person, but because, like, the bigger that the project, let's say the bigger the project that you're working on becomes, like, the more involved people are with the actual part of the project, and the more people that want to contact you, the more difficult it becomes to respond to people individually. I understand this, but still, it's like, up until recently, people always figured out a way to deal with that, is what I'm saying. And it's like, somehow, like, I would say, like, mid 2000s, late 90s, let's just say 2000. I think there were some cool things that happened in the early 2000s, but essentially, human society ceased to be focused on meaning in life around the year 2000, and became more focused on corruption and corporate corruption. Once MySpace was kind of cool, and then Facebook came around, and shit just didn't hit the same. I'm not blaming Mark Zuckerberg, for fuck's sake. But, it's just like, try to take everything I'm saying and like put it in context, into context again. Once again, I started this video pointing out that this game that I like that has to do with Mexico, it's staged in Mexico. It's not even a violent game. By the way, Modern Warfare 2 for PC, like the new one, not new, but like, the one with DMZ, also another place I've noticed weird shit. And that game does include Mexico. It includes Mexico in it. So once again, I'm just saying. So what I was saying is, if you're a police officer at some point and you want to talk to me about this, I'm open to that, as long as you approach me from a perspective that you're not setting off all my fucking alarms at once. Like, for example, I texted PJ just to try to, back and forth, try to see what's going on right now. And we had I don't know if it was a legitimately neutral conversation. I don't know if he was trying to lure me into another trap, but if he wasn't, then like that's good. Like, I liked the fact that there was some actual discourse. And like, if I could talk to him in more detail about what happened, why it happened, what I think was inappropriate, and what I think could have been done better, I would love to do that at some point. As long as he's actually engaged in the content and truly wants to understand more about it. Also, very difficult to do this when all the laws are the way they are. Fortunately, I'm not in a situation where like I'm not ordering MHRB anymore, so it makes it a lot easier for me to talk about this stuff. But I still am very displeased with the way that the police and the court system essentially made it very clear that they don't care about what's right and wrong. They just want to attack me because they can. So if you can come to me in a way where I don't feel like you're just trying to attack me and we could talk about this, I think that'd be nice, because it's actually really important. Even if you don't think it's important, I would like you to try to align your brain and your heart and your body and your intentions with the understanding that racism is not okay. That's it. That's number one. I can tolerate a good joke here and there, and I can tolerate some accurate stereotyping to a certain degree. Okay? However, what I don't like is the actual component of racism where you truly believe that you should be infringing on people's rights because they are this, that, or the other, or because they aren't this, that, or the other. That's not really, it's not correct. That's the thing, is that you're not correct in order to do so. You're just inherently wrong, and that is why it's wrong. It's not just because I think that it's wrong. It is actually wrong. So anyway, like I'm just reiterating, down the line, if you want to talk to me about this, I would love to talk about this stuff. I wouldn't even mind giving a speech at the government center. You guys want to drop the pretenses and stop acting like you're better than me and actually listen to me? I'd love to talk to you about this. I'm not saying I know everything about it, so I'd like to hear your feedback too. I'd like to actually approach this from the way it's supposed to be approached. And this isn't the only substance that needs to be legalized either. The whole point is that these substances they don't all need to be going through corporations, but we need to have a system in place, which is more than possible with the internet, as long as you people aren't still abusing and exploiting the internet to abuse and exploit people. So what needs to happen is there needs to be a lot more public information about this stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't have businesses, especially with regards to education and pharmaceutical companies. You should be able to have your businesses, but we need to work out some of the details of why are you making these chemicals toxic in order to get them through a patent. Why can't you just accept that this stuff is natural, and you can still patent your extraction method? You can still do that. You should be able to do that, is what I'm saying, if there needs to be a patent involved. And frankly, police should just be paid better in general so that they don't have to go out of their way to do stupid shit like this. And also, social media needs to chill the fuck out. And social media companies should take a little more responsibility with the kind of rhetoric that they allow to be disseminated. And I don't mean quelling free speech. If you want to be an asshole, be an asshole. But I think there needs to be a little more responsibility with regards to especially bribed paying for content to be pushed and stuff like that. There needs to be a little more thought put into that. I don't necessarily think there needs to be more regulation. I just think there needs to be more fairness. So anyway, I know that kind of ruins the point of like controlling everyone with your platform, but that's my point, is you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. It's like arguing that your teapot should have human rights when you're not arguing that I should have human rights. It's like, you really need to work your priorities out. There's no point in having $10 million at your disposal if the only thing you can buy is piles of shit and, more piles of shit is my point. Damn, this whole thing has got my organs hurting from complaining. Oh, and the second thing I wanted to address at the end of this, I talked about how at some point, when appropriate, I'd love to talk to you about this if you are in the judicial system, like from an open perspective. Once again, I'm not going to have all the answers, but I definitely have a few things to say that you should take seriously. And then the other thing is, if you're on, I wouldn't even say the other side because it's not really supposed to be, I guess to some degree, church and state, but like, this might strike you as weird if you don't know where I'm coming from with this, but if you are in a cartel organization, I would also like to speak to you about this because this substance is really important. I am under the impression that a lot of people operating in cartel organizations, first of all, are not inherently criminal. My understanding is that the cartel organizations are actually Christian organizations, and that Christ represents a very important part of what substances mean to people, and that it is actually mostly religious, and that it just gets skewed and people forget. Just like American corporations can be corrupt, cartels can be corrupt too. Like you really should be doing these things for the right reasons in the right way because that's how it works. Once again, going back to PJ saying like that's not how it works when I said like you should have sent me a letter. That is how it works. I don't know what you're referring to when you say that's not how it works. That's not how crime works. Even crime, honestly, if you're going to commit crime, there's better ways to do that. So yes, that is what I said is how it works, and I feel like you just said that in the moment because you're trying to present a front. Like I think everyone can understand where you're coming from when you did that, but the reality is that what I said is correct. That is how it works. Anyway, same thing with the cartels. The cartels serving these sorts of drugs, not the ones that not the dimethyltryptamine, but like for example, serving cocaine and heroin and stuff like that. Those can be addictive. Like there's a lot of evidence that shows those can be extremely highly addictive, and dimethyltryptamine is fundamentally different in the sense that not only can it have some severely anti-addictive properties, but it also can help you heal from trauma. And I understand you can use cocaine and heroin and stuff like that responsibly. I understand that. I think I would have a hard time doing that right now because of the way that the situation's set up. Mostly because it's the same reason that like 15 years ago, when I was using THC, when I was smoking marijuana as a teenager, it was difficult for me to do that responsibly. Not because marijuana is bad for you, and not just because it's illegal, but the fact that it was illegal at the time and still is technically at the federal level, and that at the time there were no support systems for people who use marijuana other than making you stop smoking marijuana or using it. The context matters. For something to be normalized, and I would imagine that in other countries, other drugs, ecstasy, that sort of stuff, like are normalized. This is kind of where the problem started. Is I made a comment on YouTube about German safe use centers where people are using crack, and I said I think you should offer people dimethyltryptamine so that they're not just using crack cocaine and then dipping out and doing whatever, that they actually have a chance to have an option. Like I'm not even saying you would have to stop using crack cocaine. I'm just saying it seems to me that as long as you're going to be using this substance, you should also have some dimethyltryptamine in your system so that you can make some informed fucking decisions. Now maybe it's not that simple. And also because dimethyltryptamine is a very spiritual molecule. I figured it would probably help. Anyway, I think that was the last straw, and they decided to be like, fuck you, shut the fuck up, blah, 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 blah. Stupid assholes. But anyway, my point is I'd like to talk with some of the cartel people too, because I think dimethyltryptamine fits very nicely into their system where it's not to prevent people from purchasing your product. But just like Big Pharma, as a cartel member, you shouldn't be pushing drugs on people that aren't good for them. That's my point, is that you just shouldn't be doing that. It's not a good business model. And you say, yes, it is, and then you leave a trail of bodies behind you, and then you forget to repent, and then you realize it wasn't a good idea. Long story short, I mean, I would be very surprised if there's a single human on this planet who does not fall under the category of someone who has to deal with the consequences of their actions at some point in their life. I'd be very surprised if there's anyone ever who has ever fallen into that category. Oh, and same thing also about the talking to cartel people about legalizing these substances. Not so that you have to get a doctor's degree in order to serve them. All you need to know in order to serve those substances effectively outside of a generalized education are specific. If you're serving one substance, for example, I think you should be aware of some of the chemistry behind it so that you can answer some questions about it. I think you should be aware of how it's being sourced. I don't agree with the compartmentalized, like the totally compartmentalized, like you don't need to know that, just do your job thing. I think you should be educated. And I also think that you should be able to work with law enforcement without having to resort to bribery and violence. So long story short, yes, the Forza Horizon 5 thing, I want to play that game. I'll probably go play it later on the Omen. I know it sparked a lot of this stuff for me. I'm trying to process it in a way that's helpful so that I'm not just crashing out because someone potentially did something petty. Potentially. I'm not even blaming anyone specific. I'm just saying I'm aware that it could be part of a psyop. And I, you know, either way it's weird that it's doing that, and I don't have a solution for it other than just to talk about it and to go play on the other computer. So anyway, before I go on way too long about it, it's 1 minute 46:50. I mean, 1 hour 46 minutes, almost 47 minutes. That's already quite a while, and I could probably talk 6 more hours on this. I would love to talk about this in public someday on a stage. And once again, it's the same thing. It's like TED Talks have been like social mediaized, but at the same time, I'm still grateful that they exist. It's still a potential platform that sort of thing. I don't need a TED Talk to talk about it, but that sort of thing is like what my dad used to do, is sponsor conferences for medical technology experts. It's like I approve of the format. I just am not happy with the way the world in general has been going. So in order to bring it back, sorry, my nose is itching. Like, I hope that if you watch this video, you actually paid attention to what my point is, and that you're not just distracted by me being triggered or by you being triggered, because my understanding is that most of you don't have good skills when it comes to managing your emotions, and that's why you make bad decisions like raiding my house. Anyway, I'm just going to end the video here. I'm going to, I feel like there's something positive that I could say, which is people make mistakes. That's a fact. I've made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And what really matters, other than trying to minimize the mistakes, obviously, what really matters is how we deal with them after we made them. And one of the things that I will commend, it's like feels wrong to do so, but it's like I will commend you, the Fairfax County system, for not feeling the need. Yes, you're still pressing charges. That's bullshit. But like for the ability of you to take a step back and say we need to treat this in a relatively non-criminal manner is a step in the right direction. That is a step in the right direction, regardless of the fact that you fucked up so fucking massively in order to get there. That's all I'm going to say. And I think you should be grateful on your end that I'm someone who can tolerate these sorts of things. Not very well, but then again, like who does? What kind of you should be wary of someone who enjoys. Like if I was happy that you rated me like that, you should be concerned, I think, probably in this environment. Maybe in the future something will be different, but I think you should also have a moment to be grateful that I actually know I have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And although I didn't appreciate what you did and it did fuck up my mental health when I needed help instead of what you did, that you should be grateful that I'm able to review what's actually going on and come up with legitimate feedback in a coherent manner. Relatively coherent. I'm kind of taking advantage of the fact that I'm in my own home and just recording on my laptop about some video games, to insert some real shit in there. So, and I'm looking at it, I have an idea of how this can be humorous to you. I think there's a limit to how much I would like you to laugh at my expense. But I also understand that sometimes you just don't know better, and that's how you treat everyone. And also, you've probably been laughed at a lot. That's probably why you think it's okay. I mean, I think there's something to be said about humor, but I think as a society in general, especially within the law enforcement community, there needs to be an understanding. Like, it really comes back to respect. People need to start having more respect for each other. That's really what it comes down to. And not just respect, but like real shit. Like, if you're going to point a gun at me, like, you should pull the fucking trigger and not just be a dickhead. That's lame as fuck. I'm not saying every time you point a gun at something you need to pull the trigger. I'm just saying if you're going to do some shit like that and then you're going to hold it over my head, you should have just pulled the goddamn trigger. For multiple reasons. So anyway, since you didn't, I've had the opportunity to record content like this, and I will send it in an email likely again. And whether or not you get it is, I'm doing the sending. I don't control whether you block the emails or not or read them, but I know you read one of them at least. So anyway, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you got something out of it, even if it was just a laugh.